When we talk about the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, it's easy to think they just uh, appeared together like a set.
Right, like they were always meant to be a package deal.
Exactly. But the story behind getting those rights actually added, well, it wasn't straightforward at all. There was this huge debate, a real clash of ideas,
Hmm.
a really fundamental disagreement about the direction of the country.
And that's what we're digging into today, how the whole process of getting the Constitution approved actually led directly to the creation of the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, the materials you sent over really highlight that tension. It wasn't some simple agreement. There were passionate arguments, deep divisions over how much power the government should have versus, individual liberties.
Precisely. So our mission for this deep dive is to sort of unpack all that, to really understand why the Bill of Rights wasn't just an afterthought, but something demanded. Okay, so the Constitution gets drafted in Philadelphia, but it wasn't law yet, right? What had to happen? Yeah, good question. That's where this concept of ratification comes in. Think of it like this. The Constitution is the plan for the new government, the blueprint.
Okay.
Ratification was the step where each of the 13 states had to officially say, yes, we approve this plan. They had to formally adopt it.
So like a vote, but by state.
Essentially, yes, each state held conventions or had its legislature vote. And crucially, they needed at least 9 out of the 13 states to ratify before the Constitution could actually take effect and become the governing law of the land.
9 out of 13. So it wasn't guaranteed. Was there like real pushback?
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just a formality. It sparked a massive nationwide debate, and 2 main camps emerged pretty quickly. You have the Federalists on one side.
Okay, the Federalists, who were they? What was their position?
The Federalists were the ones who supported the Constitution as it was written. They generally believed the country needed a stronger national government than what existed under the previous system, the Articles of Confederation. They thought this new Constitution provided that necessary strength and structure.
And who are some of the main people arguing for this? Any names we'd recognize?
Definitely. You had some heavy hitters. Alexander Hamilton was a major voice, very persuasive.
Right.
James Madison, who was, deeply involved in drafting the Constitution itself. He's often called the father of the Constitution.
Oh.
And John Jay, another key figure, a diplomat and lawyer. These guys were really at the forefront arguing for ratification.
Hamilton, Madison, Jay. That's quite the lineup. And didn't they work together on something specific to make their case?
They did. That's the Federalist Papers, a series of 85 essays published anonymously, mostly in New York newspapers.
85 essays. Wow.
Yeah, and the goal was very direct. Persuade the people of New York, which was a really important and somewhat undecided state, to ratify the Constitution.
So like a targeted campaign?
Exactly. But their influence went way beyond New York. The Federalist Papers provided this incredibly detailed explanation and defense of the Constitution's structure, the separation of powers, why a stronger union was needed. There's still, fundamental reading for understanding the framers' intent.
Okay, so the Federalists are making their case, publishing these influential essays. But you mentioned 2 camps. Who is on the other side?
On the other side, you had the anti-Federalists.
Yeah.
And as the name suggests, they were opposed to ratifying the Constitution, at least as it was originally written.
Why? What were their main objections?
Their core fear, really, was that the Constitution created a national government that was too powerful. They worried it would consolidate too much authority, potentially become tyrannical, and trample on the rights of individuals and the states. Remember, they'd just fought a war against a powerful central authority in Britain.
Ah, right. So they were worried about history repeating itself, in a way. Too much power in one place.
Precisely. And a huge part of that concern, maybe the biggest sticking point, was the lack of a Bill of Rights in the original document.
No specific list of freedoms.
Exactly. The Anti-Federalists looked at it and said, where are the guarantees? Where does it say the government can't restrict speech or religion or guarantee a fair trial?
Mm.
They felt these fundamental liberties needed explicit protection.
That seems like a pretty powerful argument. If you're setting up a new government, shouldn't you spell out the limits on its power over people?
That was exactly their point. They argued that without a specific Bill of Rights, these freedoms were just too vulnerable. They believed governments naturally tend to expand their power, and without clear written limits, individual rights could easily be infringed upon. This argument really struck a chord with a lot of ordinary people.
So this wasn't just a minor disagreement. The Anti-Federalists' concerns about rights were a serious obstacle to ratification.
A very serious obstacle.
Yeah.
Several key states were hesitant, or even leaning against ratification, specifically because of this issue.
how did the Federalists respond? Did they just dismiss these concerns?
Well, initially, some Federalists, including Madison for a time, argued a Bill of Rights wasn't strictly necessary. They thought the structure of the government itself, with its checks and balances, was enough protection. Some
Like an update or an add-on?
Exactly. The Federalists essentially started saying, look, let's ratify the Constitution now to get the new government up and running. And then one of the very first things Congress will do is consider and propose amendments to protect individual rights.
Ah, so a compromise. Ratify now, add rights immediately after.
Precisely. It was a crucial compromise. Several states, like Massachusetts, Virginia, and New York, only agreed to ratify on the condition that amendments protecting rights would be quickly added. Their yes vote was basically tied to that promise.
That promise must have been pretty convincing then.
It was. It showed a willingness to address the Anti-Federalists' core concerns and was likely the deciding factor in securing ratification in those key states.
And did they follow through on that promise?
They absolutely did. Once the new government was formed under the Constitution, James Madison took the lead in Congress. He sifted through the various proposals from the states and drafted a series of amendments.
And these became the Bill of Rights?
Yes. Congress debated and refined them. The states then have to ratify these amendments too, and the first 10 were officially adopted in 1791. That's what we know today as the Bill of Rights.
The first 10 amendments. Can you give us a few examples of the kinds of rights included?
Sure. They cover some really fundamental freedoms. The First Amendment famously protects freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and the right to assemble peacefully.
Okay, the big ones.
Right. Then you have things like the Second Amendment concerning the right to bear arms, the Fourth protecting against unreasonable searches and seizures, and others guaranteeing rights in the legal system, like the right to a fair and speedy trial, protection against self-incrimination, things like that.
So basically spelling out those limits on government power that the Anti-Federalists were demanding.
Exactly. The Bill of Rights directly addressed those fears by listing specific things the federal government could not do and guaranteeing certain procedures if it interacted with citizens' lives and liberties.
So if we trace it back, the intense debate during ratification, driven largely by the Anti-Federalists' insistence on protecting individual liberties, is the direct reason we have the Bill of Rights today.
That's the core connection. The Federalists wanted the Constitution ratified for a stronger nation. The Anti-Federalists feared that strength without explicit protections for rights. The debate forced a compromise.
It really highlights that this wasn't just everyone agreeing. It was a tough negotiation and different viewpoints clashing.
Absolutely. A robust, sometimes messy, but ultimately productive debate that fundamentally shaped American government. The final document, Constitution plus Bill of Rights, reflected that process.
And the Bill of Rights really did serve to reassure those who were initially skeptical, making the new, stronger government more acceptable.
Yes, it provided those essential guarantees, building broader support and legitimacy for the new system. It was a critical step in uniting the country under the new framework.
It's fascinating how something so foundational came out of such intense disagreement. It wasn't just handed down, it was forged in debate.
That's a great way to put it. And it leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it?
Definitely. Like, how different would American history look if that compromise hadn't happened, if the Bill of Rights hadn't been added?
And you can even think about today what current debates about rights and government power echo those original arguments between the Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Those foundational questions are still with us.
Really makes you think about how those early conversations continue to shape things even now. A lot to ponder.